Yep.
And
Good.
welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for tuning into our Keeping It Real session that is specifically for our competency-based education students. So thank you so much. My name is Jonathan Jordan. I'm the Assistant Director of Financial and Scholarships, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Christina Yoakum. I'm the Outreach Coordinator for the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships, and we are so glad that you've joined us this evening because we have so much to talk about in this time period that we have, and we really want our students to understand exactly what they need to do, how we work together as a team to make your financial aid happen for you. So, Jonathan, what are we going to start with?
So I guess the first thing we could talk about or start with is the FAFSA. So the FAFSA opened up for the 23-24 school year on October the 1st with a priority deadline of January the 15th. We encourage you that if you haven't done so already, to make sure that you've completed your FAFSA. You go to studentaid.gov to complete that application. For the 22-23, the application is still open. For CBE students, when you're awarded financial aid, you're awarded for the entire year. So that means from fall 1 all the way through summer 2, you are awarded financial aid. And so you have until, I want to say, June 30th, I believe, is the deadline to complete the current FAFSA, which is the 22-23 application. And so again, if you haven't done that, you can do that at studentaid.gov and complete that. Our school code is 003565. Make sure that you add that so that we can get your FAFSA and we can process your application.
I'm going to put that in the chat so that everybody has that. So we just want to make sure that you're getting all of that done. And we've got some new people that have joined us. Congratulations and welcome for joining us, because this is really, really important information that we're providing, because we do realize that there is a need, because you all are in a very different program than our traditional students are in. So Jonathan already talked about making sure that you complete your FAFSA for the academic year. If you haven't already done one for 22-23, you can still do that. If you have not started yours for 23-24, you can do that now as well. Please make sure that you are paying attention to your email, because oftentimes we get your FAFSA information in. It is not automatic. A student asked me that today. Are you going to get it? Like, right now I'm done. Are you going to get the information? It doesn't work that way. It takes a little bit longer. Not too long, but it takes a little bit longer. And then if we need anything else from you, our verification team will reach out to you through your student email, your Leo mail, and ask you for any additional information. So please, you really want to stay on top of that student email. If you're not checking it at least once a week right now, make sure that you're doing that. Make that a habit, right? If you don't have it on your phone, it is a Gmail account, an encrypted Gmail account. So you can make sure that you can put that, ooh, got dark outside there behind you, Jonathan.
Actually, the lights out in front of me they're censored. And so I was walking the hallway.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, whoa. Yeah. So you can add your Gmail student email to your phone so that you can look at it on a regular basis. I'm thinking Jonathan's shifting his lighting there. So again, make sure that you're paying attention to that email. Another thing that I know Jonathan's really going to want to hit home on when he jumps back on with us is the switching mid-semester. Right, so you all are taking these 7-week windows of courses, right? So for 7 weeks, the second 7 weeks that encompass a long semester. So I'm going to let Jonathan go ahead, because he's very passionate about this topic, switching mid-semester. Jonathan, go.
Okay, so yeah. So in the CBE program, do you hear that? It's like an echo, or is that just me?
It's just you.
Okay. So in the CBE programs, you guys are a very unique group of students that are able to register for classes with a minimum of 2 classes, and then end up accelerating and adding additional classes to get your degree essentially quicker than a traditional student that is taking classes in fall and spring. And so notice I said versus a traditional student that's taking classes in fall and spring. You all are taking classes every 7 weeks. So essentially a year-round program. And so when students switch from a traditional fall spring program to the CBE program, there is a lot of work that has to go in on the back end for students to be able to receive financial aid. So the financial aid that you would have received as a traditional fall spring student, you're no longer eligible for. It has to be adjusted to accommodate your financial aid needs for the CBE program. When we award you financial aid, you're awarded for the entire year. So you're awarded from fall one all the way through summer two. And so as a fall spring student, you're only awarded for the fall and the spring. And then if there is money left over, you're awarded aid for summer. And so when a student switches, your program is only $750 per term. So when a student switches in the middle of the semester, you would have received the aid to pay for that $750. And then anything extra would have come to you as a student in a form of a refund. Well, when we find out that you've switched, we have to pull that aid back. And let's be clear, a lot of students spend that refund check when they get it and don't have it to pay back. So when we're pulling back that aid, we also need to pull back that refund, or you still owe that balance plus the balance that we had to pull back. And so, and especially when we don't know, that's when it becomes very frustrating. It's frustrating for you, the student, it's frustrating for the administrative staff, because there's a lot of back end work that has to go into that. And so we just recommend, for one, not to really do it unless you're entering into a big semester. You don't switch. If you're in a traditional, or if you're in a CBE program in fall one, don't switch to a traditional program in fall two. It's absolutely, it's going to be a headache. It's going to be a
nightmare.
headache. You are going to be frustrated. We are going to be frustrated. Your aid is going to be delayed. And so we just recommend that you don't even do it. We've actually been in conversation with your assistant dean and Dr. Sanders, as well as Dr. VR, to figure out how we can actually move away from having those one-off students that actually switch. Going into the fall one semester, we actually had a student, and it used to be really bad back in the day, but we kind of mitigated that a little bit. And so this last semester, or this last term, we only had one student, and she was fairly frustrated, which, I mean, rightfully so. But again, it wasn't recommended to switch. And so that's some of the things that you probably need to start paying attention to if you have to do orientation each year. We are working with, like I said, your dean and your assistant dean to include that information of why it's not okay to do that. And it's also just to help you, and to help you be successful. And so we just encourage you, if you don't have to switch, don't switch, or wait to the beginning of a big semester, say for instance, the beginning of fall or the beginning of summer, but never in the middle of the semester.
Right. And so what I'm going to say is a philosophy that I like to think of is, when in doubt, don't. So if you think this is something I want to do, ooh, but I'm not really sure, that's the moment you don't jump over, right? And you ask the questions first, like, how is this going to affect my financial aid if I decide that I'm going to do that? And when is the best time for me to do something like that? So just keep that in mind. When in doubt, don't ask the questions. Don't, ask the questions. All right. So the next thing that I want to talk about is our satisfactory academic progress policy in our office. So for your program specifically, you must maintain a 3.0 GPA for the term, for each 7-week period, as well as the institution and overall, right? So we run our SAT processes at the end of the long semester. So you'll go 2 7-week periods, and then we'll run our SAT processes to make sure that you're maintaining those grades. All right, so it's really important, and that you're also completing 67% or more of your coursework. But think about it this way: if you're only taking 2 classes in a 7-week period, you have to complete both. right? In order to make that 67% for that 7 weeks. And then you want to make that 67% for the second 7 weeks. And then that way you don't have to worry about that. Plus, if you're passing all your classes, you'll get out of school a whole lot faster. So keep in mind and think of it that way. And have those conversations with your academic advisors on what's really a good idea for you in regards to taking your classes. Maybe you take a hard class with a class that might be a little easier, because many of you are working full time and raising families, unlike a lot of our traditional students that are getting right out of high school, right? So we know that you've got all that on your plate. So maybe you take a hard class with an easier class so that it makes that 7-week period easier for you, okay? And so 3.0, 67%, and then a number of you are coming in with attempted hours from a previous institution, or maybe you were here years ago and you were working on a different degree and just didn't finish for whatever reason, and you're coming back to us, but you have a number of attempted hours. There's something called 150% rule. And basically that says if you've attempted 150% or more of a 120 credit hour program, then the federal government really wants to know why they should give you financial aid still. So it's really important to keep those things in mind when you're coming in. It's not that you can't get financial aid. It's just that, one, you may be close to the end of your eligibility for financial aid. And so that's really important. And two, with that 150% rule, if you come in with more than 180 credit hours to the program, the first semester you'll come in and you'll have your first semester and you may be eligible for financial aid. But then that second semester you'll end up on a suspension because you're past the 150%. Jonathan, I feel like we could probably add to that. That maybe would help students understand that, because for some reason I feel like I was a little confusing in that description. Oh, can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was responding to a student, and so in the chat, and
okay.
So I missed what you were doing. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. I just wanted to make sure that students really understand that 150% rule. Right? So that if they're coming in with a lot of attempted hours, one, you may not be eligible for as much financial aid as you thought, because you may have used financial aid in previous years and may be close to your limits, if not at your limits, or that you'll come in your first semester and be fine and be eligible for financial aid, but going into that second semester, you'll end up on a suspension.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have a lot of students that who will say, but I passed both of my classes. I made 2 A's or I made 2 B's, and so I don't understand why I'm on suspension. But again, whenever people change their minds, people change their majors.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are double majors, and so those hours, they accumulate. However, being bound by the rules of the federal government, we do have to follow those rules and regulations. And so you will be notified that you're on a warning so that you can kind of, I guess, prepare, if you will, for what's to come. And then that following semester, you would end up being on a suspension. But that's one of the more easier appeals to do, just as long as you make sure that you stay on track with the roadmap to graduation that you and your academic advisor put forward.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us to that next topic of discussion about appeals. But I will mention that Jonathan put out there in the chat that if you have questions, make sure you put them in the Q&A box so that we can answer those when we're kind of done with this, just kind of talking about the main topics, main bits of information. So, and we will get to those as soon as we're done with this, okay? But so the next thing is that appeal process. If you find yourself on a financial aid suspension. Now, how do you figure out what your SAP status is, or your satisfactory academic progress status? You go into that financial aid portal in your MyLeo, You log in, make sure you're in the correct award year, and then you look under the tab that says satisfactory academic progress. And that lets you know if you're making academic progress, if you're on a warning, or if you're on suspension. If you're on a warning, you're still eligible for financial aid in the next semester. If you're on suspension, you'll need to do an appeal in order to receive financial aid for the next semester and going forward. So it's really important that you understand the being below the 3.0, being below a 67% completion rate. Again, this is for the semester and overall. And then being having more than 180 credit hours attempted will put you on suspension. Okay, but again, ask the questions. If you see your SAP status and you're unclear what that means, ask. All right, because we want to be able to explain to you so that as you go further into your program, you'll understand. Each semester will get a little bit easier with understanding. Now, when it comes to appeals, you always want to make sure that you provide documentation. If it's medical documentation for any reason, that you redact or you black out the information that shows treatment, that shows diagnosis, that shows prescriptions. We cannot see any of that information. So the best thing to do really when it comes to medical information, maybe you were out for a period of time during a 7-week period or during a semester and you had surgery, or someone in your family had surgery and you really just couldn't focus. The best thing to do is maybe to have the doctor create a note from their office with a signature and a date on it saying that this individual was seen in the office during this period of time, and leave it at that, right? Because it's kind of like when you're in high school and you have to bring that note after being absent. That's the easiest thing to do. That way we don't have to say, oh, you've given us way too much information, because we don't want to break those HIPAA rules, right? Everybody knows about that when they go to the doctor's office. We don't want to break those. We just want to make sure that we're doing the best by you as the student. All right, so make sure that you will, oh, there's rain coming from my end. Good idea. Make sure that you are, is that any better? Oh, you're muted.
See if you can keep talking and then we'll see.
Say that again.
Oh no, it's still doing it. I'm not really sure what that is. Yeah, I'm not really sure what that is.
Oh, I don't either, because I can't hear it.
You don't hear anything?
No.
So it must be like a computer issue or something.
I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. I can't hear it to fix it. Okay, so yeah, just going back to that appeal, just make sure that you provide documentation. If you're not sure what that documentation is, that you ask our office, right? So here's what we're saying. If you're not sure, ask. Even if you think you're sure, ask the question, right? Because we'd rather you ask all the questions you might think are stupid and get the right answer. Make sure you're doing the right thing, and then turn in the right information. Okay? All right, enough of that. Jonathan, would you like to talk about loans and Pell history?
Yes. So, okay. It's a lot of feedback. Okay, okay. I think that sounds better. Yeah. Okay, so now that we're talking about loan history, so again, this is a non-traditional program, if you will. So some of you maybe started school a while back and decided, this is the perfect time and the perfect opportunity to come back to school and finish your degree. Kudos for you. We really are happy and very glad that you decided to choose Texas A&M University-Commerce. But we also want you to understand that even though you went to school many, many years ago, if you didn't pay off the loans from then, those loans are still there. And so those loans still go towards the aggregate limits set forth by the federal government. And so as an undergraduate student in an undergraduate program, which you all are, the aggregate limits are $57,500 for loans. And then there is a 600% Pell Grant limit. And so I don't know what exactly that dollar amount is. We just look at it in the NSLDS National Student Data Loan System, and it says 600% or whatever the percentage is. But anyway, so 57,500 and then 600% for Pell. If you, like I said, if you've used federal funding in the past, that money is still, or that funding usage is still there. And so we recommend, Christina dropped it in the chat already, we recommend logging into studentaid.gov. That website, not only can you do the FAFSA, but you can look up your borrowing history, you can complete your entrance counseling, master promissory note. That website has a plethora of information and resources for you to review and get more information on. And so just making sure that you check that, because again, we see it a lot with CBE students where again, they maybe were in community college for a while, took some time off, took some classes here and there, used financial aid, and then we come up to graduation. Some students had a student today coming up on graduation, and she doesn't have any federal funding available because we used it all at the end of the last term. And so another thing to be cognizant about, this program is only $750. And I say only, like a lot of people, I mean, most people have $750 or can come up with $750. However, $750 is not really a lot when you look at the grand scheme of things for students that are enrolled in traditional programs. Okay, it costs what, about $10,000 to go to A&M Commerce for a traditional student that's living on campus, has a meal plan, taking 12 credit hours per semester. It's about $10,000 a semester, $20,000 a year. Whereas you're paying $750 per 7 term, you're getting a really, really huge discount on that. And so when we award you financial aid, we award you way in excess of that amount. And so in order to remain within your aggregate limits, you should think about it. Think about what you're taking out. There are a lot of students in this program who qualify for a federal Pell Grant, and they use only the Pell Grant to pay that $750. The program does not require you to purchase books. So the $750 is a flat rate. And so if you can use your Pell Grant, which is free money that doesn't have to be paid back, why not use that and reduce the overall amount of loans that you have to pay back? And I know some of you are probably saying, well, I'm the one that has to pay it back. Well, I get that. But also, whenever you're trying to pay for school because you didn't put anything aside, you don't have anything available. And because this program is only $750, you don't qualify for institutional aid and institutional scholarships. And so that's something else to think about whenever you've been awarded all of this financial aid, where we're awarding Pell Grants, subsidized loan and unsubsidized loan, if you're eligible. And then the program is only $750 for those of you that are in state. Those of you that are out of state, I think it's $1,500, but still, that is still a significant discount compared to what other students have to pay. So just making sure that you are cognizant and staying on top of your borrowing history is a really good thing. Studentaid.gov is going to be your resource.
All right, well, I almost hate to unmute myself because I don't want to, make anybody have to listen to the ringing. I don't know.
It's not glaring. It like comes and goes. It's
okay.
Not like glaring.
I'm so sorry.
No.
All right, so as Jonathan mentioned, you want to check your loan and your Pell Grant history, but some things to really talk about are, what are you eligible for in regards to financial aid for this program, okay? And I know that somebody did ask about, are there any scholarships available? So first and foremost, students within the program, if you have eligibility remaining, you're eligible for federal loans and for Pell Grant, okay? Pell Grant is really based on that EFC score, right, from your FAFSA. So that's really important to understand that as well. And then outside of that, there are not institutional scholarships. or donor funded scholarships. It's my understanding that on occasion there's a departmental scholarship that may be eligible for new students coming into the program. But outside of that, in regard to scholarships, it's really outside of the university. We do have some really good information on our website about those outside scholarships, different websites that we know are reputable websites for you to go and apply for scholarships year round, right? You're not waiting for anybody, you're just applying for them at any time of the year. So seek out those outside scholarships for yourself because they will help. The other thing is a private education loan, okay? And you want to think about private education loans like this. If you're not eligible for federal loans any longer, if you're no longer eligible for Pell, and as I spoke about, you're not getting any scholarships, you may want to discuss your program with your academic advisor, more specifically to the point where you are not ending up with only one class remaining at the end of your program. All right, because, well, even if you are eligible for federal loans, if you end up with one class at the end in the very last semester, you're not going to get any aid. You're not, because it's required that you have 6 credit hours in a semester in order for you to reap the benefits of financial aid. And so for your program, it has to be 6 credit hours in a 7-week period, okay, in order for you to reap the benefits of federal financial aid. So if you do end up with one class, that 3 credit hours that's remaining, and you're having trouble paying for that remaining class, you may consider a private education loan. Okay, and the way you do that is you go outside the university. We do have something on our website that's called ELM Select. It's a historical lender list. Thank you, Jonathan, for that reminder. Historical lender list, ELM Select on our website under loans. And so you can kind of see what other students have utilized, what other companies or private education loans other students on our campus have utilized here. And so that helps you look for what are your available options as far as private education loans. But I will tell you, if you decide to go that route at all, you want to make sure that you are in touch with our office in regard to that. If you go apply for a private education loan, you need to let us know you've done that, because nobody's sending us information telling us that you did that. All right, so you need to let us know that you've been approved for a private education loan so that we can certify the loan and get that funding into the university to pay on your student account balance. Okay, and as Jonathan reminded me, Pell Grant will prorate to disperse for 3 credit hours if you're eligible for Pell Grant. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, so federal loans, Pell Grant, you want to look for outside scholarships, and private education loan if that's needed. All right, so I'm going to share my screen, Jonathan, so I can bring up those disbursement dates while you talk about them for a little bit.
Okay, and I also wanted to add that accelerating what we talked about, you and I talked about earlier today. So along with the awarding options, remember I mentioned to you all that whenever you're awarded for the entire year. So if you'll see it, it says, as a matter of fact, in the paragraph, second line, financial aid is offered for the entire award year and split evenly among the 7-week terms. And so we do have a lot of students that ask us, so if I know that I'm in the original 2 classes that you guys require, what if I accelerate and I add another class? That does not matter. Unfortunately, that does not matter, simply because your charges are not going to increase. You're paying a flat rate of $750. So there is actually no need for us to increase the amount of financial aid that you receive. Plus, there's nothing for us to increase because we've awarded you already for the entire year. And so we just wanted to make sure that we pointed that out, that you're awarded for the entire year. Some students say, oh, I'm graduating. This is something else that I wanted to talk to. So this is, Christina, this is kind of off topic. But students say, oh, I'm graduating at the end of this fall 2 term. most times, and the part B to that, and I want all of my financial aid applied in the fall two term. Well, for one, we can't do that because of budget restrictions, cost of attendance budget, and that's a whole different conversation. But cost of attendance budget, where we can't award you over a certain amount in a specific term or in a specific year, we can't award you over. We are bound heavily by the feds, okay, just FYI. And so there are certain things that we can and certain things that we cannot do, and that's one of them. But I was going somewhere with that, and I don't remember. However, but just know that, and oftentimes students don't necessarily graduate. And so if we say, for instance, if we did that and we awarded you all of the financial aid in the fall two term, and then you did not graduate, because keep in mind, in this program, you can only qualify for an a grade of A, B, or F. And if you fail a class, then you're here the next semester, the next term, and you don't have any financial aid to pay for that. And even though you're only taking one class, it's still $750. And so again, that's one of the major reasons why we don't do that. So now we're going to talk about disbursement dates. Here, if you go to our website, tamuc.edu, under the competency-based education section, there are term dates. And so the term dates are for the fall 1 through summer 2, tab 1 through tab 6, and their disbursement dates. Now, some of those dates are subject to change. Just because of technical issues, sometimes we run into where classes back up to each other. So say, for instance, one term will end on a Friday and the next term will start on a Monday. Well, we don't have time to review satisfactory academic progress in that short of a turnaround period. And so that's what that means by sometimes the dates are subject to change. However, we will communicate with you whenever that happens. It doesn't look like it's going to happen this year, so you all are in luck. So we're really excited. We're excited about that. But I wanted to point out the difference, again, between traditional students and CBE students. Traditional students, their financial aid releases 10 days before classes start. For CBE students, your aid releases 3 days before classes start. So the Friday before classes start, you should expect to receive your disbursement. There are sometimes where, because the process is very manual in some aspects, some students may be overlooked. And so just all you have to do is email us at fao.web, and we'll be more than happy to review your account to see why your aid not dispersed. A lot of you have already done that this week, so we appreciate you, and we got your aid paid if you were eligible for it. So, just let us know. We have a team of people that are checking those emails and responding to those emails daily. So, yes.
Yes. And something that I will say about that, oh, there we go. Something that I will say about the disbursement process is, as Jonathan said, it's an automatic disbursement that happens after business hours. However, there are things that do happen. And, as I've had some conversations with one of the academic advisors for CBEs multiple times over the course of this week, there were things that students missed. There were students that didn't complete a FAFSA, so there wasn't financial aid to disperse. There was a student that didn't complete their terms and conditions, and that is, even if you're going to take just Pell Grant's automatically accepted for every student, so there really isn't anything that you have to do with the award, but you still have to accept your terms and conditions, and all of that is within that financial aid portal in your MyLeo. So just keep those things in mind, because there are requirements for students to complete before their aid can disperse. And sometimes there are errors on our end. And like I said, and Jonathan said, if it doesn't disperse when you have been told it was supposed to disperse and there's an issue, please reach out to our office, right? Don't wait until 6 weeks into the 7 weeks or, 12 weeks into 14 weeks to say.
Or you wait from fall 1 all the way to summer 2.
Right. So just reach out, and it could be as simple as an email, so that you reach out and you just say, hey, wait, something's happened, or things didn't happen the way I think they should happen, so that you give us an opportunity to explain or to fix the problem. Okay, so just make sure that that's happening as well. and that you're communicating with us. That's really all we ask, is that you communicate with us when you feel like there's an issue, or you just have some questions in general. Okay, so the next thing that we really want to talk about is the difference between financial aid and student accounts. Okay, so when you have issues with your financial aid disbursement, you're going to come to our office and you're going to talk to us, meaning send us an email, give us a phone call. Okay, or if you are in the area, you live in Commerce, live close to Commerce, and you want to come into the Welcome Center, do so. Okay, if you have a question about your bill, if you have a question about your refund, okay, if you have a question about maybe you're getting some funding from your school district, or you're getting funding from an outside source that's not particularly, well, it could be a scholarship, but it's more like a resource, like, hey, I'm a police officer and the department where I work says they'll give me, so much money. That is student accounts. You really want to touch base with student accounts when it comes to billing and refunds, okay? For our office, it's that loans, those Pell Grants, those outside scholarships, those private education loans, those disbursement times, those things on your financial aid portal. If it's not in your financial aid portal, it's probably student accounts. So just keep that in mind, okay? And Jonathan really talked about that. So Jonathan, is there anything else? I will, you know what? I'm gonna share the contact information. So it's out there. Let me pull that up. Do you have something else that you would like to talk about?
I will say also, students oftentimes believe that financial aid um, assesses charges, and we don't. Whenever you log into your financial aid portal and you see that number, there's like a big ginormous number of 20-something thousand dollars or whatever, that is your estimated cost of attendance budget. And that we talked about budgets earlier. You will never find a bill, something that you owe to the university, in the financial aid portal. That's not a thing. And so I just wanted to say that and get that out of the way. But I'm going to answer this first question. Thank you. I filled out my FAFSA for 22-23. How long before I get a response for approval? So the awarding process is automated. Depending on when you did your FAFSA, depending on when you completed your FAFSA, you may be receiving emails from our office to say that you're either missing something, or you've probably been awarded, because you would not believe how many students have financial aid and offered status at the time that we are ready to disperse for the term. And Christina mentioned how she was talking to the academic advisor. We review lists. There are lists that we have to review to keep you off of the drop list for whenever they drop for non-payment, which that's something that financial aid does not do. Registrar's office drops for non-payment. And so several students have their financial aid awards in offered status. So definitely check your account if you have not done so already. If you don't have anything in your MyLeo, you don't see any financial aid awards, when you first log in on the first page, on the home page, it'll tell you if you're missing documents. It'll be in red. If you're missing something, it will show up in red, and it'll tell you, if you click the little drop down, it'll tell you what it is, or it'll provide you a link to complete whatever it is, or tell you who you need to contact. It'll give you all the information that you need. If you've done all of that, what I've just mentioned, you've logged in, you've accepted the awards, or you don't see any awards, but you see that you have something in red, if you check all of that and you don't see anything, please email us, fao.web at tauc.edu. Christina has shared that. Just make sure that you check that. Send us an email and someone will review the account for you. Yes.
Yes. So this next question is, when funding is applied to your account, how long till the extra is dispersed to us by check or direct deposited for other school needs? So again, that goes to that refund question. And it is my understanding that refunds can take anywhere from 3 to 5 business days after the funds have dispersed to your account. Okay, so 3 to 5 business days, but really if it's past that 3 to 5 business days, you want to go to student accounts. And their email is student.accounts@tamuc.edu. And you want to touch base with them in regards to your refund method. But I will tell you, you need to have a refund method set up. If you don't have a refund method set up in your MyLeo, it's going to come to you in a paper check, and that can take up to 2 weeks. So you want to just make sure that you have that refund method set up in your MyLeo account.
And I dropped that email in the chat, so you should be able to see that there. So really good questions. Thank you for those. Again, this is now your opportunity to ask us any questions that you have related to financial aid, anything about how the financial aid works for CBE, anything that you have that's financial aid related. We are here. We have about 5 minutes left. So drop your questions. If you don't have any questions, thank you for tuning in. But yeah, this is definitely, you have someone right here. You have someone here available for you right now. And so you don't have to wait for an email or wait for a phone call back. We can answer anything that's not specific to your account. We can give you kind of general answers. But yeah.
Right. And so I would say that the most, excuse me, the most important thing to think about is that, that how many hours you're bringing into the university if you're coming in from outside and you're starting this program after having been in school previously. How many hours you're bringing into university is really important for you to know the difference between, what's excessive, what's excessive and what's not. And then knowing that, what the SAP policy is, that 3.0 and that 67% completion rate, so that you're prepared every semester, at the end of every semester, to review your SAP status in your financial aid portal.
All right. Well, Christina, if you don't have anything else, and if the attendees don't have any other questions, any final pressing questions, we want to say thank you so much for taking time out to have a chat with us about all things financial aid related to competency-based education. You guys had some really great questions, and we appreciate those questions. Anytime that you have a question about something, like Christina said, just ask, because you don't know what you don't know. And so when you ask those questions, makes a better experience, makes a better student experience, makes a better experience with our office and with our staff. So yeah, be sure to reach out, fao.web@tamuc.edu for any questions that you have. Communication, guys, communication is the key. So if there's nothing else, then we will wrap up here. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Good night.